Yeah, seen some dark days in the past, and I'm here to tell a story about how that kind of led us to this point today. So we're Proqure. Manufacture is very slow, and we're here to speed it up. So at a high level, the problem is that design for manufacture is slow and very error prone because there's a lot going on in it. And we're building an AI co-pilot for DFM in order to build some automations and improve the workflow. And what this might look like is taking kind of this cluster of things over here and turning it into that over there. So this is an actual email chain from my last company. I was doing a hardware startup where I was trying to order this conveyor belt, and it was actually like 100 emails over the course of 3 or 4 weeks to get this thing ordered, which is kind of ridiculous. This is a very difficult interface to actually work from. And actually, when ordering another part for the company, the vendor, it was a similar email chain, actually ended up pulling the wrong drawing revision from this like 100 email long list, and it ended up costing them 25K to make it right for us and delayed us by 2 weeks. And honestly, I felt pretty bad for them because, it's almost not your fault to mess something up like that, but, it was their liability that they pulled the wrong drawing. And at the time, I told one of my seasoned mechanical engineer friends, like, oh my God, like, what is this? And he's like, yeah, get used to it. Like, this shit happens in mechanical engineering. And I was like, why? That's ridiculous. So after shutting that company down, we talked to a bunch of other people, and turns out this problem actually applies to people in DFM at all kind of scales. I mean, startups like mine of 10 people, all the way up to like 100K plus companies that have design teams. And like, why is this so hard to do? Well, take something as simple even as like this kitchen timer that I mangled off my refrigerator. This thing here has like 96 parts in it that I counted as I took it apart, 22 of which are unique. And they go through all sorts of processes. I mean, you have to design an injection mold for the plastic parts, or make sure that everything fits together when you like go make 10,000 of it and you have variations in the parts, or talk to the guy who's the electrical designer to make sure the board can fit in the casing and so forth. In fact, while I was tearing this apart, I actually found that the gear inside is 3D printed, which is like truly ridiculous for a scaled like product you buy on Amazon. But hey, some engineer did the math and saw that it was actually cheaper to like print 10,000 of these gears than to make an injection mold for the fixed cost and then just produce a bunch of them from that. That's how like heterogeneous this process can be. So the reason my email chains look like this is generally the mechanical engineer is kind of sitting between all of these different people and all of these different systems. And so you get a huge amount of back and forth in the process that's really distracting to the design process. So what mechanical engineers really want this to look like is them interacting with the application engineer or the fabricator who's going to make the part. And we think that we can actually make all of this go away with some RPA automations. The first 5 features we would want to do are: one, automatically request a quote; two, simply reply to vendors based on like information in your PRDs; also document management, like pulling the file that guy messed up, and creating an automatic PO so you don't have to wait for a procurement person to run that; and even logistics tracking, like figuring out like what stage your part is in being made if it takes like 3+ weeks to make it. We think that this can finally be solved as of the last couple of years because of advances in AI that allow you to take all this crazy unstructured data and make it structured so you can automate it. So we made a demo of what this would look like for one kind of top of the funnel of getting a part made. So here, we want to find a fabricator to make our part. It's hard to find who can exactly make it, but our program here understands your drawing, pulls off the materials, the processes of how to make it, some of the biggest dimensions and so forth. And then it looks through our database of 6,000 fabricators that we put together in the past week, and it matches you to the correct one who can make the part, drafts even an information quote that tells them what material and processes you need, and then lets you send it off to them. So longer term, this would actually be part of a more kind of cohesive app of the entire flow of wanting to order something to getting the part in your hand. The next step after having run that fabrication finding process might be they reply to you and they tell you, oh, we don't have the tool to actually make that specific part on your drawing. We need to change it. And so our program will actually allow you to lay out the changes that you can make and automatically execute some of them. But longer term, as engineers are clicking around the app in order to make these decisions, we're actually capturing designer intent. So we might be able to automate design for manufacture through this gradually. So if you see here, the next version of this might actually catch that the person cannot make this part because of this tooling, and it might actually flag it for you before you send it out and automatically correct the drawing if that's what you want to do. So currently engineers only have a few options for this kind of thing. I mean, one is like the manual email chains you saw. Another is like hiring expensive buyer consultants to kind of like manage the email chain segment for you. Another is part marketplaces where you just kind of like drag and drop a part and they're kind of constrained in what capabilities they have. And it's also kind of a black box where you can't interact with the person making it, which usually leads to mistakes. There are also some machinist portals that are kind of like inbound communication portals for the machinist, but they're not really helping you go through the design for manufacture process from the mechanical engineering end. And then a lot of people do use procurement software, but that again is not set up for handling DFM decisions, drawing changes, things like that as part of the order workflow. The market is huge, and manufacture is also growing thanks to some tailwinds like the CHIPS and IRA Act. We've started talking to a few customers in the past couple of weeks, and based on what pricing we could charge, it seems like the US and Europe kind of combined market is about $8 billion if you can save even just an hour a day, which we think is immediately possible given those 5 RPA features that we're going to build. Longer term, though, as you increase this, say, to 2 or 3 hours or so, which we think the automations will be able to do as we collect more data, this grows substantially. I mean, people are putting a lot of time into design for manufacture, and a lot of it can be automated. Another pricing model that we're actually discovering as of this past week is that people are also willing to pay hundreds of dollars to have their like quote turned around in the same day. And so we're actually thinking about adding either as a combination or as an alternative per project pricing, essentially, where people are willing to basically pay a few $100 to have it done like now. Our go-to-market is starting out with hardware startups where it's like the most hair on fire problem because they're very resource constrained. They're moving as fast as they can, trying to get parts turned around, and they don't have the resources to hire a bunch of people or consultants to work on this kind of stuff. Then we're going to do product-led growth to mechanical engineers at all kinds of mid-sized companies. And finally, we'll be doing enterprise sales to some of the biggest manufacturers like auto companies. I'm Alex. I went to Stanford, did a PhD in mechanical engineering, started a robotics restaurant startup, and Arik just finished his PhD in an AI lab at Stanford, and then was working at BlackRock. And Chandler is a 0 to 1 engineer and now director of engineering at a logistics startup. So yeah, thanks to everybody who helped us this weekend. And we're looking for intros to startups that build physical things. And also, we just opened up a bank account on Monday and have started taking checks. So angel and small checks as well. Thanks.